Welcome back, students, to our final week of our At the Movies podcast series. So join Grace and Colin and me as we dive into our final type of movies, documentary.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a good click, too, actually.
Yeah,
I was
solid.
I'm getting better at this. Let's go.
Fourth time's the charm.
Yeah. That's what I always say when it comes to the 4-week podcast series. The fourth one's usually, the first week and the fourth week are my two favorites out of the two because you feel the excitement at the bookends, I guess. But all that being said, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. We made it.
I know. 4 weeks.
4 weeks. We talked about a lot of movies, Hallmark, Cars, Barbie Princess, Shenanigans.
Yes.
Whatever that movie was actually called. You know what? Oh, actually, before we get to what we're talking about today, our final candy is out, and those are Trolleys. Grace, these are your favorite ones, right?
I love Trolley sour gummy worms. Like my girls at church that are like in my Collide group, we finished in a massive bag. When I say massive, like this big, in 2 weeks.
Okay, first off, so we just had Sour Patch Kids last week. What is the difference? Like, truly.
These are so much better.
I disagree strongly.
I love a gummy worm, so I'm partial. But I do love Sour Patch Kids.
But like, what?
I like the texture of these more. I'm very weird about like the textures of gummies. I don't like all gummies the same. These are fire.
These are very gummy.
Yeah. My best ones are the yellow and the red.
Yellow and red? Okay.
But it would go yellow and red and then pink and blue and then green and orange.
Okay. Yeah, I had a red and blue one.
I also, they're kind of
hate it.
stale.
It's good. Yeah.
I kind of like when they get stale too.
See, that I can see. So at our campus, we like when, or at least Ashley does, we love it when Twizzlers get stale. Like, so they get like there's like a perfect science to it where like they still have that chewy flavor, but like they're just a tad like firmer or whatever. So those are good too. But all that being said, diving into documentaries today. So be honest with me. Do you guys watch documentaries?
Yes. I actually love a documentary.
Sweet. I'm not the only one. Okay. What documentaries have you enjoyed, Grace?
I like a lot of nature ones. Like,
cool.
Disney Plus does a lot because of like their whole like Animal Kingdom thing. So
sure,
I like those.
Yeah.
I like some sports ones.
Wait, backtrack. The Animal Kingdom one, is that the one of Animal Kingdom Park or like the actual like
Animal Kingdom Park.
Okay, yeah. Because
So
I've seen that one, and that's
so
fascinating.
Cute. There's a gorilla named Grace.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I forgot about that one.
It's a
that's
little
cool.
baby gorilla.
So, sorry, you were saying that. What other ones do you enjoy?
I really like sports ones, like football ones. Trying to think. Oh, I like a lot of dance ones because I'm a dancer.
Ah, okay.
There's been a few of those that I really liked.
Cool.
But yeah, I love a documentary.
Colin, you on the documentary train with us here?
I have seen a couple.
Okay. Were you forced to watch them, or was it more of a?
I mean, yeah, I was forced at school for a couple, but the one that I remember the most was one on Michael Jackson. I watched with my grandpa.
Fascinating.
Don't know where it came from.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So my go-to one that I really, really enjoy watching, we were just talking a little bit about off camera, is Free Solo, also on Disney Plus. Basically, and what's funny about it is there was nothing about the documentary at first. I'm like, oh, this really appeals to me. It's about this guy named Alex who basically scales El Capitan in Yosemite by free soloing, which means is a rock climbing term for when you climb without a harness, essentially. And I mean, it's hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of feet tall up in the air then that he's like climbing up with nothing holding him safely. And I think that's part of it that was like so interesting to me. And also like the way how they talked about his story and all of that. Because I like some of the plot twist moments we even see in documentaries as well. Somewhere along the way while he was training for it, he ends up going to this doctor's office to get a scan of his brain, and they found out that his brain literally is developed in a way that he needs something like climbing up the tallest rock face, in North America or whatever, to actually feel like the same excitement that you and I would feel like riding a roller coaster. You know what I mean? Like that, like excited but nervous.
How convenient.
Yeah, but he's like, he needs something like, I'm like, dude, like that means like everything must just feel like so much like lower and down for him, like on other things than too, which kind of feels sad. But that was part of the excitement of watching that documentary then. And also too, in all that, kind of what we're talking about today, is the fact that it just shows people, I really do think documentaries do a great job at this, showing people's lives like authentically, because it's not about like this super polished, Marvel movie where like the CGI has to be perfect, or, the characters have to be written for, a drama or a rom-com in a certain way. Truly, it's like, hey, just here's what we got. Here's the facts. This is like the life that we are living in. So that being said, if someone was to make a documentary about your guys' lives, what would be one thing that you would really want them to include in that?
Sorry.
Oh, no.
I mean, I feel like it has to be Taylor Swift.
I knew it.
I knew it was coming.
We had a brief moment where we locked eyes and we said we knew what's going to happen.
Yep.
Taylor Swift.
That's what's
I feel like
happen.
it has to be. Like,
yeah.
It's one of my arguably most iconic personality traits is that I'm a massive Swiftie.
That's a fair point, Grace. Yeah.
So I feel like it has to be.
All right,
Maybe Taylor Swift herself would be a nice touch.
there you go.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift. Oh, she wouldn't be playing you in your own documentary. You would be doing you in your own documentary. But that's a different point. Colin, how about you?
Mine would definitely be, so I'm super passionate about cars and trucks and motorsports and stuff.
Nice.
So definitely some of that aspect.
Yeah, that's super cool. I would say for me, some of the sports I played growing up in high school, I feel like that'd be a fun part. The things I've done, here at church, just how I started out in student min, and some of the things that I've gotten experience and stuff, especially the retreats. Honestly, if someone could go back and show me videos of every retreat I've ever been on.
Yeah, I want raw footage of 2019 Manhunt at Fall Retreat. What was it called? It was Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible, yeah.
I want raw footage of that, please.
That would be good. Stuff like that would be, and I even remember even earlier years when we played Mission Impossible, and it was you had to bring boxes of oatmeal cream pies with you just to bribe the people that were trying to catch you wherever the flashlights. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah, I laid on the floor of a muddy forest.
Yeah, it's quite a time. It's quite a time. So now oppositely, is that a word? English is still hard for me apparently.
It is always.
Always. What would be something that maybe you wouldn't like in the documentary? Not that you're embarrassed by it, but oh, I don't know if that part of my life I would really want to have a part of it. You're trying to kind of let it go and forget it then.
Yeah, so for me, I think it would be my younger sister and I used to actually hate each other, and there's no better way I can use to describe it other than the fact we would yell at each other all the time. We never got along. We were always fighting. So I think, and that was for a really long time. I wouldn't say up until 2 or 3 years ago, right around when COVID started, it was really bad. But then also became better through that. So I think just now we're fine. I feel it'd be great. We're best friends now, but before that, definitely would not want to include any of that because I'm not happy with some of the things that I said to her as my own sister.
Totally. Yeah. Some of those moments where you're even whether it's with a sibling or not, right? I do you have any siblings?
Yeah. So
it's some of those moments of just are not great moments of growing up and figuring out how to be brothers or sisters, right? Was that what you were gonna say then too, Colin? Something like that?
I was gonna say definitely my early years of middle school. I had some friends that were not the best influences, and so I definitely wasn't who I am now. So
fair. I would actually probably say early middle school for me too, just because those years were just really awkward. Yeah, it was just a weird seasonal life then too. So it's it's not that there was anything awfully embarrassing in it. It's more of why would you waste your time on my life in this part then too, right?
Yeah.
But I say all that because even thinking through that lens, authenticity in it's a really interesting topic for our world today. Where do you guys see authenticity playing out within high school or in the world around you? What do you think people's relationship with it is? Do we like authenticity? Do we not like it? How do you guys see that as high school students or now former high school students?
I think especially the rise of influencers in social media, social media influencers, people are gravitated towards authenticity and people wanting to be their authentic selves. But I do kind of find some irony in that entire phenomenon because majority of the time, social media is a highlight reel of somebody's life.
Right.
So like people think this person's being authentic, but I've even seen like the rise of like TikTok and stuff. I find it really interesting that people, like, at first it was Instagram was a big thing, then it was like YouTube and like so on and so forth, and now with TikTok it's just like one of those things that people just, it's like an even deeper dive into somebody's life. Like people like are invasive on social media, like they want to know a lot.
Totally.
So I think just that entire thing, like people want to know stuff about people, but they want to know what said person has like created, like that like image or like facade of themselves.
Yeah. Colin?
Yeah, I was gonna say sort of along the lines of what Grace said. I think that like social media and like all of that nowadays kind of creates this like kind of unrealistic view of what authenticity is.
Yeah.
Because like we think that what somebody's posting is like, oh, look at their life, like they have such a great life, like this must be what their life is like every day because this is all they post.
Yeah.
But in reality, like that's just the good parts. Like you don't see the bad, and then it gives us this perception that's not really true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting too, like even just talking about the different like social media platforms there too, right? Like obviously, like if you're using Instagram, you're using that to post pictures that you like, right? That you like of yourself, or you like of like the place that you're at, like, oh, like I'm at this concert, I'm at this sports game, like, you know, you're, again, it's a highlight reel, right? You're trying to show like all the awesome, like best things about it, which absolutely are a part of your life too. But like, you're also not going to be like, hey, y'all, just got in a huge fight with my parents. Like, life's not doing great now.
Life
but
is awful.
Yeah, bye, kind of thing. You're not doing that. Even like we're thinking about YouTubers, like a lot of times like these like professional guys, you know, that we are like are the professional, you know, content creators or whatever that are doing all these things. It's super polished, right? Like everything, you know, they spend a ton of money on like all these professional shots or, you know, all these crazy like technical things that go on the video that just make it look more appealing. So more and more people, you know, click on it and click on it and click on it. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, is that actually what happened? Or is that just some like really cool, like magic that happened, you know, on the, you know, timeline or whatever on the video then that they're editing on and getting to see all of that. But so when we think of authenticity though, personally in our own lives, and where do you guys see like our faith in Jesus calling us into authenticity? Because I can think of some stories in the Bible where like, you know, there's moments of like times where people really had to be authentic with it, but even just maybe in your guys' experience here in high school and too, like where does our faith and authenticity like overlap for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's, for me, it's one of those things that I've tried to like uphold like the Christian image that I thought I should. And I was like, oh, people think I'm being authentic because like my dad grew up like working at a church. Like we were always super involved in it. And so I was like, oh, people will think it's authentic because like that's what it's always been. And where it's like on the flip side, like it was not anywhere. Like I was incredibly struggling in my faith. I completely walked away. So it was just one of those things that like I thought I was being authentic, but I knew it deep down I wasn't. And so when I started actually being a Christian because I wanted to, and I wanted to learn more about God, and I wanted to grow closer to him, is when like my faith started being authentic and people could tell.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. What were we going to say?
I think mine was kind of the opposite. Like when I, in my earlier years of school, like I was a Christian and I came to LCBC and stuff, but I didn't necessarily show it like in school. And because like I was afraid of like being embarrassed and like, oh, they're not going to like me because I'm a Christian and they think I'm going to tell them what to do, what's right, whatever. Right. But now I've kind of flipped that and like I try to embrace it as much as I can and like bring other people to Jesus with that. So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's hard though, right? Because I think like there's kind of that question of like why is it really that important, right? Like, yeah, sure, I can show up and have that great Christian image on a Sunday, right? But like, why should, and maybe I'll throw it back out to you guys for this, like, why should it matter that we're more than just that image on a Sunday morning or Monday night, Saturday night, whenever anyone's attending at any of our different locations there? Why is it so important for us not to just stick to that image of like being the perfect Christian or whatever, and actually like be authentic, not just with the people here at church, but also with people that we interact with on a daily basis at school or at work or whatever? Why is that important?
Yeah, I guess for me, I used to have two different like personalities or personas depending on if I was at church or if I was at school, like depending on what friends I was hanging out with. So I guess for me, when I noticed the greatest change in my life, like in like a faith sense, was when I started acting the same person at both places.
Yeah.
Like I'm the same person at church serving with my 5th grader or my 7th graders now. Than if I was like at school, like in class. Like I'm the exact same person.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, I find it important because, you know, like in the Bible, like God tells us that you have, like we're created in God's image, and we're supposed to live like that and showcase that to other people. And so I think in order for us to bring other people closer to Jesus and to introduce them to him, like if we're acting completely different than we do at church, then like they're going to be like, oh, well, why would I want to do that? Because it's not like you act like it anyway.
Yeah.
So in order for people to like believe that it's a good thing and believe that it truly does change your life, we have to showcase that like in every day.
Absolutely. Have you guys seen this like play out before in your guys' life, where like you've maybe on either side of that, where you've like, oh, like I've been able to be super authentic with my faith with someone, and like what transpired out of like that interaction, or like a moment like, hey, you know what, I really wasn't all that authentic with like who I am and what I believe, and then maybe the consequences of that there then as well too.
Yeah, I guess for me, so as I mentioned last week, I switched schools halfway through high school. What I didn't mention is the fact that I switched from a private Christian school to a public one. So I was there since I was 3 to when I was 16. So I grew up always being around people that were Christian, and all my friends were like at school. So for the first time when I switched schools, I had people that were not Christian and like were not religious at all in any sense. And so it was my first time getting to experience sharing the gospel with people at school, but also just in general, people that had never heard it. And those are some of the most enlightening, exciting, but also like some of the most difficult conversations that I've ever had. Yeah. But getting to share my authentic faith because with people that had never heard anything about it, like really helped me grow my faith, but also obviously helped them.
Yeah, of course. Colin, any situations or things come up for you, man?
Yeah, for me, it was actually this past year on my lacrosse team.
Yeah.
So we were on the bus and whatever, and we were just talking, and then a couple of the guys like knew that I was Christian, and like they could tell that like I acted differently than everyone else. And so they just started like asking me questions about my faith and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, this is really cool. Like they've noticed it in my life, and they've noticed that I act differently than the rest of the team because of this. And so I feel like that was a step that kind of helped me push them closer because they noticed it in my life. So that was cool. Totally. Yeah, I can think of family members and friends personally from my life who aren't, close followers of Jesus. And one of the things that is always interesting is I think there's that internal wrestle that comes out of this question, right? Of like, is it awkward for me to like ask them if I can pray for them, or like, you know what I mean? Like, or like, tell them about Jesus or invite them to church or whatever. But what's so cool is that what I've seen is that regardless if they respond to whatever it is, right? They're the living authentically in that moment has brought like a new like depth to that relationship in a cool way that wasn't there before. It's like they recognize that like I'm not trying to like, I don't know, just like come out of nowhere and just like just shove Jesus down their throat or whatever. But it's also like hey, like I respect the fact that you believe what you believe and that we can, have conversations about that. Or like even thinking through like if they're over at like our house, like we can pray for a meal together, even though like that might be something that feels like a little strange for them. Like they still like respect that, and we can have great conversations around that then too, because of the authenticity that we're able to live with that. And I think that's just it's a really cool thing that we get the chance to do as believers too. I forget if you guys said, was there a moment in that then too where you're saying like, hey, maybe I didn't show my faith super well in this moment, and it was kind of like a deterrent thing then too. Did we hit that already? I don't think we did.
I don't know. I mean, I can think of times where like we're like definitely like I can think of times actually even at my private school that people didn't even realize that I was such an involved person in the church.
Sure.
Because I definitely didn't always act like it at all. Like, I think it's because I was so obviously like I literally had Bible class and I had homework for it. So I some points wanted to like separate myself as far away from God as I possibly could, because in my head that's school and I don't like school.
Yeah.
So
right.
like stuff like that.
Yeah. Any thoughts with that, Colin?
I can't think of anything specific, but there are definitely like some people that don't even know that I'm a Christian or don't even know that I go to church. But like, I think it all depends on like my level of relationship with them and like how much I talk to them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
and even too, man, I think our identity, like what we think our identity is in, can sometimes play a huge part in that. So like, for example, one of the things that was always interesting for me growing up in high school. So I played basketball, right? And was very fortunate to play basketball for like a great school that had a great basketball program. I wasn't always I don't think of myself as like a really good basketball player, but I got to be part of some really fun teams along the way. And because of that, there was this interesting thing that I feel like I experienced in high school where I lived my life differently. I mean, it kind of sounds like you feel this way with the lacrosse team. I lived my life differently, and I feel like I acted in different ways than the way my basketball teammates did. So even though I was a part of that team, there was still part of me that felt like that wasn't like where my identity was in. So it made for this really interesting thing. Like, well, how do I like view this relationship I have with basketball? So within that umbrella, like where do you guys see authenticity to our faith playing out in like how you've shaped your identities?
Like trying to think.
Sorry, yeah, I'm just gonna toss you like a huge philosophical question there.
I guess until I've shared my faith with somebody, I haven't fully shared my authentic self, because who I am in God does make up a huge part of my identity. Yeah. And I'm at church a lot. Yeah. Like I volunteered a ton of different things. And so until I've shared that, I'm like never going to be my authentic self around somebody, which is kind of scary to think about. Yeah. But it's also really cool because I get to share such a big part of my life with somebody else. Yeah. And like really let them get to like take a look in that like window of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what you were saying, like definitely within the lacrosse team and stuff like that, like I don't feel like I'm like as close with all the players as everyone else, because like I don't use the same language they do. Right. I don't think about the same stuff. Yeah. But just like being able to balance like you know, like being a good Christian and like showing that to everybody, but also like being able to still be friends with them even though they don't have the same beliefs as you. Yeah. Like just kind of identifying yourself within those two things and making sure that you're still who you want to be within your church life, but you're also you don't like lose friends because of it. You know what I mean?
Totally. So, yeah. Because those are some things, truthfully, in that too, that like can kind of keep us, I think, sometimes from that too, right? Because it's like, man, what if they don't understand, or like, what if they like aren't gonna be like, cool about it or chill about it or whatever? Like, what if that friendship gets lost or whatever? Then too, I think it was Adam Bixby that was on the podcast like not too long ago, and he said something with to me that was like, or in the course of our conversation that was super cool. But he was just like, hey, like if what we are sharing with them, the gospel, right, everything that we know about Jesus and what he's done for us, right, if we're sharing that with someone, and like we should believe that that's good news for them too, right? Like the gospel literally translating to good news, right? Like we should be excited about the fact that like we're sharing that with them the same way that we would like, hey, I made it into Liberty for college, right? Yeah. Or I got accepted to the university I wanted to, or like, hey, like we just won this game on the lacrosse team or whatever, right? Like the same way that we should get excited about telling the family and friends about like these kind of like milestone things in our life. Like, hey, like we should be able to get excited about that for telling others about Jesus in that way then too, and allowing, like you said, that authentic part of ourselves to show up in our lives then too. But all that being said, I'm curious. I'm gonna go back to our first question, and I'm curious to see what y'all will say with this. But thinking about if someone did make a documentary of your life, right? How would you right now think they would see Jesus coming through authentically through what they would see in your life as they're making that documentary?
Yeah. So I think for me, it would definitely be like a documentary of where I'm still growing in my faith.
Totally.
Because sharing the gospel with people is not always easy. Like, it's not always an easy thing to do. So they could say no. It could even just be hard to share it because, again, you're letting somebody into a part of your life that's so personal, like your relationship with God. So I definitely would think it'd be that, but I guess it would also be aspects of me starting to pour into others' relationships as well. Like, as I mentioned, like, a few weeks ago, I think at the first one, like, my 7th grade girls, I am as much helping their relationships with Jesus grow as much as they're helping mine. Yeah. Because they love to talk, but they also love to talk about their relationships with God. And I am growing with them into being like them, to be willing to just get up in front of somebody and share it with them. Yeah. So I guess something like that, like, my faith is still growing, but it's growing in a positive direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin?
Yeah, so I think mine would definitely showcase, like, the ups and downs in my faith. Yeah. Like, there are seasons in my life where I feel like I'm really a good Christian and, like, I go to church and I pray and I read the Bible a lot. But then there are also seasons where I feel like I'm not as heavily involved. And so I think that's something that showcases, like, that your faith can be like that and it's okay for it to be like that. But just to showcase that, like, at the end of it all, like, I still am a Christian and I still try to showcase it as much as possible would definitely be important.
100%. And what's cool about that too, right, is I think even Grace, what you were saying there too about, like, how it's continuing just to develop your faith too, right? Yeah. Those highs and lows, those moments of just, like, continuing to get better, like, that's a part of each and every single one of our stories, right? So, like, I would be more skeptical and question more if someone came out with a documentary like, here's my perfect faith, here's everything I do right. You know what I mean? Like, that's definitely not authentic, right? So what's cool about that is, like, I think we'll all, like, hit moments like that of, like, understanding that, but also it doesn't mean that we can't, like, take steps forward in that. So maybe just quickly share for you guys and too, like, what are those things that, like, hey, like, if you think about it from that lens, like, imagine by the end of your life, you know, someone's gonna, you know, be making a documentary about your life and your faith and stuff. Like, what are the things that, you know, you would be, like, wanting to continue to grow in so that that documentary would, you know, reflect that in a certain way, right? Like, or how do you live more authentically in your faith for that documentary being made then?
Yeah, I think kind of what Colin said is I went through lots of ups and downs through my faith and to not hide that. Yeah. And that's actually one of my favorite parts about my story is the fact that my story is a testament to, like, you can be so heavily involved in the church, but being involved doesn't always mean that you actually have, like, a very strong faith. Sure. And I think that's, like, I got baptized a while ago, and that was one of my favorite parts about my story that other people told me too was so nice to hear, was the fact that they just assumed I had it all together because, like, I was doing an internship, I was always hosting an HSM, and I was, like, serving at all these places, but to know that doing that doesn't necessarily make you a good Christian in a way. Like, do all that's amazing to do. But until you have, like, the foundation of your relationship, all that stuff doesn't really, like, that's not going to make me grow closer to God until I, like, actually grow closer to him at a base level.
Sure. Yeah. Anything else with that, Colin?
I think mine's pretty much the same.
Yeah, totally. Well, so the only thing I would throw into that too, personally for me, was just, like, man, like, it's great to have people, and we've talked about this a lot through the other weeks too, but, like, just having people around you who are able to keep calling you into more, like, whether it's a mentor or, like, really great friend groups are going to keep calling you into deeper and deeper levels of just getting to know Jesus, getting to experience him and stuff, because ultimately, like, I guess personally, like, what with that question, my hope would be that, like, that you would see those ebb and flows. You see those, like, authentic moments where, like, I got it, like, really right or really wrong when it comes to my faith. But ultimately, when you get to the end of the line there, you would see just, like, there was growth that happened, and the growth that was, you know, still going to happen if, you know, my life kept going on. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because we all have room to continue to grow in that and continue to grow in our faith in that way. But just being authentic with that, not pretending like we have it all together, and allowing people just to see the genuine version of ourselves through that then too. So, but all that said, guys, we did it. 4 weeks.
4 weeks done.
Let's go. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us. For real, it's been so fun getting to hang out with you guys. You did an awesome job, and hope to see you guys again on the podcast and soon then, all right?
That's good. Thanks
awesome.
for having us.
Thanks for being here, y'all. See yous.